Good morning, good afternoon, whatever time of day it is. I'm glad you're doing some math. We're going to be looking at surface area of rectangular prisms today. So we're staying with the same shape of a rectangular prism. Remember, it's made up of all rectangles. It's three-dimensional. And if we look at surface area, remember volume was like filling this up with the cards. How many cards would it hold? That would be the volume. But now surface area is looking at how much paper or this plastic coated paper would it take to make this box. Okay, so when thinking about that, just some things that in the future that you may need to use to do surface area. I just jotted a few down, and I was thinking about if you need wrapping paper to wrap a gift. It wasn't Christmas too long ago, or maybe Valentine's Day you wrap something for somebody you loved. Anyway, if you wrap a gift, how much paper do you need? If you're going to paint your walls one day, how much paint do you need? If you're going to build a doghouse or cover a pen with plywood or some kind of wood, how much wood do you need? Now, you may be thinking, well, what does it matter? I'll just buy some, and if I don't have enough, I'll go back and get some more. If I get too much, I'll take it back. Well, that's a lot of aggravation. So if we could figure it out to start with, then we could save ourselves a lot of time and money and heartache and headache from having to run back and forth. Or the iPad carts here at school, which is what I'm looking at. So I jotted down the iPad cart. How much material does it take to make that iPad cart? So we're going to look at how do we find surface area. Now again, there are lots of different ways to do it. I'm going to show you the way that I think is the easiest. That does not mean that it's the only way. So when I look at this rectangular prism, I call this the top. That's what I see is on top. And then I'm going to flip it over. I call this piece the bottom. Well, what was the bottom? Now they've rotated. But anyway, top and bottom, which are the very same size. I call this piece right here the front. That's looking at me is the front. And I call this the back. The front and the back have the very same measurements. They're the same size. Now I call this the left and the right. Now the left and the right also have the very same size measurements. So the length and the width is going to be the same, because that's how we find the area of a rectangle. So let's look at one of these drawings and see if we can figure it out. Now the first thing that I do whenever I'm doing surface area, if I'm going to cover this whole box, I'm going to put top, bottom, front, and I'm writing fast so it's pretty sloppy, front, back, left, and right. Okay? So remember, the top and the bottom are the exact same. So I really only have to do that once. So that's going to be 3 times 7 is what I'm hitting. So 3 times 7 is going to be 21. So we know that this piece is also 21. Now I need to do the front. Remember, the front is the part that is looking at us. So if I trace it, I like to trace them because it helps me kind of see it. Because sometimes if I do a lot of these, it almost looks like the parts jump around. So if I look at what numbers I'm hitting, what's my length and what's my width, I'm hitting 3 and 4 for my length and my width. So the area of that rectangle is going to be 3 times 4, which is going to give me 12. So I know that the back is the very same, so it is also 12. Now I have one more piece, and that's the left and the right. And the left and the right are also going to have the very same measurements. So I've got to figure out this blue swirly part. Here's 7. That part's easy. Now this part, the up and down, I don't see quite as easy. So what you have to do is visualize. I know that if from top to bottom is 4, then this top to bottom is also 4. Okay? So that means that we've got length and width of 7 times 4, which is 28. So this piece is going to also be 28. So now that I've figured out all 6 pieces, all I have to do is add those pieces up. So 21 plus 21 plus 12 plus 12 plus 28. Did I do 28 or did I do 2? I'm not sure. Let me start over. 21 plus 21 plus 12 plus 12 plus 28 plus 28. All right, 122. So now my total, my surface area is going to be 122, and this was centimeters. And now we're not doing volume. Remember, volume was cubic, but area is going to be square inches. So 100 not square inches. This one is centimeters. 122 square centimeters. Okay? So let's try it again. So we're going to do a different one. So again, if I'm going to cover this whole shape, I've got top, bottom. Maybe I should write a little easier. I've got the front. I've got the back. I've got the left. And I've got the right. I've got 6 pieces. So remember, the top and the bottom should be the same. So I'm going to trace the top and the bottom just to help me keep all my pieces straight. And if I follow that bottom, that base, I see it hitting the length and the width, which is the area of that rectangle, is 5 and 7. So 5 times 7 is going to give me 35. So I know this piece is also 35. Now the front is what's looking at you. So if I trace the front, it looks like to me it hits that 5, and then the up and down piece. The up and down piece is going to be 9. So we've got 5 times 9, which is 45. So this piece is also 45. Now we've got the left and the right. So I'm going to use these blue circles. Okay, so I've got 7 and 9. I'm hitting the 7, and then that up and down is 9. So 7 times 9 is 63. And so that this piece is also 63. So now all I have to do is add up all of my pieces. So 35 plus 35 plus 45 plus 45 plus 63 plus 63. And that's going to give me 286. And that was feet in that measurement, so then this would be square feet. So now I'm going to ask you a question. Now, what if I was making a box and I was going to transport some rabbits in it? I don't know. I'm not going to need a top. I'm going to need, if I don't need a top, then I would just leave off the top and I could add up those pieces. And that would be how much wood I would need to make a cardboard if I was going to build something to carry some rabbits down the road. That would be, I would just add up those numbers. So that's why I break this down into top, bottom, front, back, left, right, because, for example, if you were going to paint a room, typically you don't paint the floor and the ceiling. So the floor and the ceiling are going to be the top and the bottom. So I could cover up my top and bottom, and then add this up, and that's what I'm going to need to paint my walls. So that's why I write it out in such detail, so that I know if I do need to leave something out, if I have a word problem that tells me to leave parts out, then I can do that fairly easily. So now this one, again, we're going to do surface area, so we're going to cover it all up. So we've got a top, we've got a bottom, we've got a front, we've got a back, and we've got a left and a right. So again, I like to trace or shade in my base or my bottom. So when I look at that, I'm hitting 8 and 10. 8 and 10. So 8 times 10 gives me 80. So I know that both of these are 80. Now the front, this front is really skinny. So what two numbers am I hitting here? I'm hitting 8 and 2. So 8 times 2 is 16. Well, I didn't need to write that again, but I did. That's okay. So then I need to look at the left and the right. That's this little piece here. And that's going to hit 10. And then my up and down is 2. Which gives me 20. So this piece is also going to be 20. So when I add all those up, I really could put this piece together as 100 and this piece is together as 100. And then no, those are 36. But anyway, we'll add them all up in case all that didn't make sense in your head. So 80 plus 80. I hit a plus already. 16 plus 16 plus 20 plus 20. And I shouldn't have said 36. I should have said 32. There was a careless mistake on my part. That's why I need to do a calculator, I reckon, for careless mistakes. All right, so inches. Got square inches on this one. So if we had a word problem that told us that this was a box of cereal and we were going to take the top off, then we could just cover that up and add up whatever was left. Okay? So you can manipulate this and use it however you need to. Now, I also make comment to make sure you pay close attention. We multiplied the 2 times the 8, and we multiplied the 2 times the 10, and then we multiplied the 10 times the 8. So you need to make sure like you don't do 8 times 10 twice, because sometimes it gets confusing about what's the top, bottom, front, back, left, and right. Just make sure you've multiplied everything by itself, and then you should be okay. So remember, if you have concerns or questions, make sure you email me, and I can do an individual Google Meet.